Have you ever wondered what life would feel like if nothing could get under your skin? What if the noise, the criticism, the drama, the chaos just passed through you? And what if you could face every storm with the same calm as still water? Picture this: every negative comment, every roadblock, every person who tries to push your buttons. What if none of it ever affected you again? Just imagine that for a moment. You're moving through life, and yes, storms still roll in. Challenges don't disappear, but this time, something's changed. You face it all with calm. No more anxiety. No more inner chaos. No more spiraling when something goes wrong. Instead, there's stillness inside. A quiet strength. Sounds like a fantasy, right? It's not. It's entirely possible. And by the end of this video, you'll have the clarity and tools to begin building that mindset to master the art of emotional detachment. To stay calm, composed, and grounded, no matter what is happening around you. You've probably crossed paths with people who already have this gift. People who don't flinch in crisis, who carry a quiet confidence. No drama, no overreaction, just steady presence. And let's be honest, they're often respected, admired, even envied. But here's what most people don't know: they're not special. They weren't born with some secret advantage. They simply know something others don't. They've learned to develop a skill most people ignore: emotional control. Emotional detachment. And this skill is not about becoming numb or indifferent. It doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you start seeing clearly. You learn how to observe your emotions instead of being swept away by them. It's about being able to stand firm when life tries to knock you over, to stay centered when things get messy. Because the truth is, most people lose themselves over the smallest things. One rude comment, a slow Wi-Fi connection, a flat tire. That's all it takes, and suddenly, the whole day is ruined. The mind races, patience snaps, and hours are lost to frustration and overthinking. Sound familiar? Maybe it's happened to you more times than you'd like to admit. But here's the question: how many of those things, those tiny, fleeting irritations, will actually matter in 5 years? Even in 5 months, probably not even 5 days. And yet, we give them so much of our energy. We let them steal our peace. Why? And more importantly, how do we stop? And you can tap into it right now by making a simple but life-changing decision to stop wasting your precious mental energy on things that are insignificant. The journey to becoming unshakable doesn't start with some complicated technique. It starts with this: learning to decide what's truly worth your emotional investment and what isn't. Because here's the truth most people never realize: every emotional reaction you have is a choice. Think about it: someone insults you. What's your immediate response? Anger, defensiveness, maybe you feel hurt. But pause for a second. What if, instead of reacting, you smiled calmly, thanked them, and walked away? What happens then? I'll tell you exactly what happens. You take their power away. They expected a reaction. They were hoping for it. They feed off your emotions. But when you give them nothing, when you stay calm and centered, they're left with nothing to work with. That's what emotional detachment looks like in action. And have you noticed this pattern throughout history? The people who were admired the most, the leaders, the visionaries, they were rarely the loudest in the room. They were the ones who stayed composed, who didn't flinch under pressure. They carried a silent strength that made people stop and listen. Why? Because the highest form of influence isn't loud or flashy, it's self-control. When others see that you can't be shaken, they instinctively understand you have something they don't. That's what draws their respect. Not because you demand it, but because your presence earns it. Now contrast that with people who are constantly chasing approval, always needing validation. They're emotionally fragile. One negative comment can send them into a spiral. Their confidence is built on sand. But the ones who let go of that need, they become something else entirely: powerful, grounded, independent, no longer puppets pulled by external opinions. Now think about yourself. Be honest. How much of your life is being shaped by the need for others' approval? And what would happen if, starting tomorrow, you didn't need it anymore? Can you picture that version of you? Free, clear-minded, walking into every room with quiet confidence, completely unaffected by judgment or praise. Not arrogant, not dismissive, just focused, calm, aligned. Because when you're truly clear about where you're going, all the background noise fades away. Does this person's opinion truly matter to me? Are they someone whose values I deeply respect? Someone whose judgment holds real weight in my life? Most of the time, if you're honest with yourself, the answer will be no. And just like that, you free yourself from the emotional burden. But what about the criticism that does matter? What if it comes from a mentor, a trusted friend, or someone whose insight you genuinely value? Should you shut that out too? Absolutely not. But even in those moments, there's a skill that separates the strong from the reactive. You learn to separate the message from the sting. You pause, you breathe. You step back from the emotional reaction. Then you analyze calmly. You extract what's useful, and you let go of the rest. No drama, no overthinking, just growth. Because when you process criticism with clarity instead of emotion, you become unstoppable. Every insult loses its poison. Every setback becomes a data point. Every piece of criticism becomes raw material for your evolution. Think about someone whose business just collapsed. For most, it's the end of the road. But for someone who's emotionally detached, it's not failure. It's feedback. It's a lesson. It's fuel to build something better, smarter, stronger. And that's exactly why those who develop this mindset outperform everyone else, not sometimes, but consistently. It's not that they don't care. It's that they've learned to care about the right things. They care about their mission, their mental clarity, their long-term purpose. Not about fleeting discomfort or the noise of a bad day. So how do you practice this in everyday life? You start small. Next time you're stuck in traffic, instead of getting irritated, use that moment as a practice. Pause, breathe, reflect. Turn frustration into mindfulness. Turn waiting into awareness. And as you get better, expand it. A relationship ends unexpectedly. Pause. Breathe. Let the emotion rise, but don't let it steer. Feel what you feel, but don't let those feelings dictate your decisions. You're the captain. Emotions are the weather, not the wheel. Here's the beautiful truth. Emotional detachment doesn't kill your joy. It amplifies it. Because once you're no longer shaken by every irritation, every setback, every opinion, life becomes lighter, clearer, deeper, more joyful because you're finally grounded. Picture a sailor in the middle of a storm. Does he panic at every wave? Does he scream at the wind? No. He adjusts his sails. He steadies the wheel. He reads the storm and keeps moving forward. That sailor is you. And the calmer you remain, the safer and faster you reach your destination. What if your inner stillness could actually shape the world around you? Because it does. Your internal state shapes your external reality. When your mind is steady and composed, it affects everything: your decisions, your relationships, even the energy you bring into a room. Have you ever met someone who walks in and instantly shifts the energy? Not because they're loud, but because they're centered. They don't speak much, yet their presence radiates calm confidence. They never force anything, yet they seem to hold the room. That's not magic. That's inner composure. It's a quiet force, one that earns trust, commands respect, and draws admiration without ever needing to raise its voice. So how do you become that kind of person? You start with training the mind. Just like a muscle, your inner calmness needs consistent effort to grow. Practice small, intentional moments of stillness every day, meditation, mindful silence, watching your thoughts without judgment, without the need to act. And build discipline not in giant leaps, but in small, conscious choices, choosing patience over anger, observation over reaction, stillness over impulse. Over time, something subtle but powerful starts to shift. Instead of bending to the chaos around you, the world begins responding to your calmness. Because here's the truth. Real strength is never loud. It doesn't scream. It doesn't need to prove itself. Real strength is grounded. It's deliberate. It's quiet but unmistakable. Even the words we use reflect this. Think about it. A reaction is automatic and filtered and controlled, but a response, that's intentional, conscious, a choice made with clarity. So the next time pressure builds and stress rises, remind yourself, you don't have to react. You can respond. You can breathe, pause, and choose your next move from a place of power, not panic. Practice that daily, and soon, what used to trigger you won't even move you. The default reaction fades away. And calm, conscious responses become your new baseline. Think back to criticism. Instead of instantly defending yourself, what if you just listen, not to agree or argue, just to understand? Instead of explaining or overreacting, you simply consider, is this feedback useful? If it is, use it. If not, release it. No drama, no spirals. And here's something that might surprise you. Sometimes, silence is your most powerful response. Picture a negotiation. Someone tries to pressure you, demanding a fast answer, pushing aggressively. But instead of caving, you pause, you say nothing. You just breathe and hold your silence. What happens? They become uncomfortable. They start doubting themselves. The balance shifts in your favor, because silence, when used with intention, becomes a form of leadership. It gives you space to observe, to think clearly, to control the pace. It reveals less and gathers more. And perhaps most importantly, silence commands attention. It creates weight, because it's rare, because it shows control. And in a world full of noise, restraint is power. Have you noticed how many people speak just to fill the air? Endless chatter revealing their insecurity word by word. In a world where everyone rushes to speak, silence becomes a rare and powerful force. It preserves mystery, it draws attention, and most importantly, it creates authority. Now imagine this. You're in a future conversation. It's tense, maybe even confrontational. But instead of matching the energy, you stay grounded, calm, silent, thoughtful. And something interesting begins to happen. People start leaning in, they slow down, they mirror your presence. Your silence pulls them in, not pushes them away. That's when you realize silence is no longer uncomfortable. It's not weakness, it's not avoidance. It's become your ally, a subtle, powerful companion that works quietly on your behalf. To master this silence is to master your emotions entirely. You no longer see your emotional state as something that controls you. It becomes a tool, a signal, a guide, not a trap. You begin to recognize emotions for what they are. Temporary visitors, not permanent residents. You stop clinging to anger. You let resentment pass like a breeze. You observe the emotion without becoming it. The greatest masters of emotional detachment aren't numb or indifferent. They feel everything, but they let nothing control them. Because they've internalized one simple truth. Nothing external deserves the keys to your inner peace. And this is your ultimate goal. To live fully, deeply, intentionally. To be awake, aware, and engaged in life, yet untouched by its turbulence. The storms come, but you stay grounded. Criticism shows up, but you remain still. Pressure rises, but you remain clear and composed. Now pause for a moment and reflect. How often do you let the smallest things dictate your entire mood? A spilled coffee, a missed train, someone cuts you off in traffic. Suddenly your whole day is thrown off. But ask yourself honestly, why? Why give up your peace so easily to moments that, in the grand scheme of things, mean nothing? The truth is, most people live on autopilot. They react to everything. A comment, a delay, an inconvenience. And without realizing it, they let the outside world shape their inner experience. But here's the question that can change everything. Does reacting with anger or frustration ever truly help? Does it fix the situation? Does it improve your peace of mind? Almost never. Instead, it drains you. It clouds your thinking, and it often leads to even more chaos. So how do you break this cycle? It starts with awareness. Begin watching yourself in real time, especially in moments of stress. Notice the rise of emotion, and then notice the exact moment when you're about to lose control. That's the space you're looking for. Because inside that space is where freedom lives. It's the moment where you can choose a different response. Think about elite athletes, the best of the best. They don't just train their bodies, they train their minds relentlessly. They visualize pressure, they rehearse their responses. So when stress hits, they don't panic. They don't overreact. They respond with clarity and precision. Emotional mastery doesn't come from suppressing your feelings. It comes from training your mind consistently to respond, not react. So the next time you feel stress creeping in, whether it's during a tense meeting, a disagreement with someone you love, or just in the chaos of daily life, pause. Visualize your calm response before it's even needed. Mentally rehearse it. See yourself remaining composed, detached, and rational. And here's the amazing part. The more often you do this, the more it becomes your natural response. You literally start rewiring your brain. Instead of defaulting to panic, your mind starts defaulting to peace. You've heard the phrase stay calm under pressure. But have you ever really thought about what that means and how powerful it makes you? Being calm doesn't mean you're immune to stress. It means you've built enough self-awareness to feel pressure without letting it break you. You don't get dragged into drama. You don't overreact. Instead, while others are spiraling, you become the steady voice in the room. When emotions run high, your calmness speaks louder than their noise ever could. And that calmness, it becomes your greatest strength. People sense it, they respect it, they look to you when things fall apart, because they know you won't. But despite this power, most people still fear silence. Why? Because silence feels vulnerable. It exposes whatever is unresolved inside us. It makes us sit with things we'd rather escape from. But here's the paradox. Once you stop running from silence and start sitting with it, it transforms. It becomes your strongest ally. Because in silence, clarity begins to surface. In silence, your real thoughts, the ones behind all the noise, finally rise to the top. Think of someone you deeply admire. Chances are, they're not the loudest person in the room. They're the one who listens closely, speaks intentionally, and chooses their words with care. And when they do speak, everyone listens. Why? Because silence amplifies their presence. It gives weight to their voice. It gives authority to their words. And here's the good news. You have that same power. Start practicing intentional silence. When someone pressures you to give a quick answer, pause. Let silence do the heavy lifting. And watch what happens. The energy in the room shifts. Suddenly, you're not reacting. You're responding deliberately, powerfully. But the strength of silence isn't just useful in work or conflict. It's just as powerful, maybe even more so, in your closest relationships. How many times have you said something in anger or frustration, only to regret it moments later? Words spoken recklessly can leave wounds that linger for years. But silence, used wisely, can do the opposite. It can de-escalate tension. It can show maturity. It can create space for healing. Let's make this real. Now imagine yourself in the heat of an argument, but instead of firing back, you pause. You choose silence. You simply listen. In that moment, your silence speaks volumes. It radiates strength, patience, and compassion without saying a single word. And almost instantly, the energy shifts. Tension begins to dissolve. What could have escalated into conflict becomes an opportunity for connection. But real emotional mastery doesn't stop there. It asks something even harder from you, letting go of what you cannot control. And not just in theory, but fully, deeply, without resistance. That's the part most people struggle with. Think back to the last major disappointment you faced. A rejection, a failed plan, an unexpected ending. How long did you stay in that mental loop? Replaying the moment, second-guessing your decisions, asking what if. That loop becomes a prison, a trap that keeps you tied to the past, draining your energy and preventing real movement forward. But now, imagine something different. Imagine facing setbacks, big or small, and immediately accepting the outcome. Not passively, but with clarity. Not with resignation, but with real power. Because true strength lies in knowing exactly where your influence ends. You control your actions. You control your attitude. You control how you respond. But everything else? Other people's choices, unexpected events, the outcome of things you gave your best to, that's outside your reach. And holding on to it only creates unnecessary pain. When you embrace this mindset, something remarkable happens. Failure becomes information. Setbacks become detours. Your mind feels lighter, unburdened by anxiety or frustration. Life starts to feel less like a constant battle and more like a flow. You become more flexible, more present, more fulfilled. Take this real-life example. Someone loses their job unexpectedly. At first, they're devastated, angry, overwhelmed with fear. But then they take a step back. They practice emotional detachment. They realize, this isn't personal. It's just reality unfolding. So they pivot. They explore a new path. They learn new skills. Maybe they even launch a side project they never had time for before. And within months they're happier, more fulfilled, grateful that life redirected them. That's the quiet power of detachment. Not coldness, not indifference, wisdom. It's the ability to feel deeply without being destroyed by your feelings. To stay connected to life without being controlled by outcomes. Because when your peace depends on everything going right, you're always one moment away from collapse. But when your peace is internal, anchored in awareness and trust, you become unshakable. And here's how you strengthen that peace daily. Through meditation, through mindfulness, through stillness. Every day, give yourself 10 minutes just to sit and observe your thoughts. Don't chase them, don't fight them. Just notice, watch, breathe. That one practice can change everything. Don't just observe your thoughts. Watch your emotions rise and fall like waves. Let them pass through you without clinging, without resistance. Don't grip them, don't wrestle with them. Just let them move. Over time, this single habit retrains your brain. You begin to see emotions not as truths, but as temporary states like weather passing through the sky of your mind. They come, they go, they don't define you. Another powerful practice to pair with this, journaling. Each evening, take just a few minutes to reflect. Where did I react emotionally today? Where did I respond with clarity? Which choice served me better? As days go by, you'll start to see patterns. Moments where detachment helped you stay in control. Times when calmness created better outcomes. You'll begin to connect the dots between emotional discipline and greater happiness, stronger relationships, and clearer thinking. But let's be honest, this journey isn't always perfect. Emotional detachment isn't a destination you suddenly arrive at. It's a practice, a mindset, a process. There will be days you stumble, days you feel overwhelmed, triggered, frustrated, or even exhausted. And that's okay, because the key isn't perfection, it's awareness. Learn to recognize emotional turbulence for what it really is. Not a punishment, not a personal failure, just a signal. A moment to pause, to regroup, to respond more wisely next time. Each time you choose awareness over reactivity, you grow. An MCC Hun. Each time you pause instead of spiraling, your emotional muscles get stronger. Every challenge you overcome becomes proof you're getting closer to total mastery. And then, one day, it happens. You'll face a moment that would have broken you in the past. A comment, a loss, a conflict. But instead of falling apart, you'll feel calm. You'll observe your emotions. You'll remain in control. And you'll respond with poise. That's when you'll feel it, what true emotional power really is. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's peaceful. It's confident, it's rooted, it's uncheckable. It's the freedom of knowing that nothing external can disturb your peace unless you let it. Now imagine waking up each day with that power, carrying that clarity and strength into everything you do. No criticism can shake you, no setback can steal your calm. No chaos can hijack your mind. That's the promise of mastering emotional detachment. And the best part, it's available to you right now. Start today. Choose calm over chaos. Choose reflection over reaction. And let silence walk beside you as a steady, trusted ally. Little by little, step by step, you'll build a mind that's resilient, focused, and free. No matter what life throws your way, you'll meet it with strength. Have you ever wondered why people are so naturally drawn to calm individuals? It's not just personality, it's presence. Calmness radiates confidence. It signals reliability. And when you're composed, you're quietly sending a message. I'm in control of myself and of this moment. And the people around you, they sense it. When you cultivate emotional detachment, something powerful happens. You become the kind of person who can support others confidently and navigate life's unpredictable waters without drowning in emotional chaos. Just think about some of the most admired leaders in history, those who inspired movements, changed nations, and led people through crisis. What did they all have in common? Emotional resilience. They weren't the ones who shouted in anger or panicked under pressure. They were the ones who stood firm, calm, focused. Their steady presence guided others through the storm. Why? Because they understood something vital. When emotions go unchecked, judgment becomes clouded, reaction replaces reason, and true clarity disappears. These leaders mastered the art of detachment, not because they didn't care, but because they cared enough to stay centered. And that clarity gave them the power to respond effectively, regardless of the circumstances. Now imagine applying that same mindset to your own professional life. Most workplace conflicts don't happen because of deep disagreements. They happen because emotions take over: frustration, resentment, pride. One sharp comment turns into a full-blown argument. One stressful deadline sparks tension across the team. But what if you became the person who stayed composed through it all? In high-pressure meetings, your calm tone and thoughtful ideas would rise above the noise. When disagreements surface, your steady energy would diffuse conflict and turn it into constructive dialogue. While others spiral, you would remain the anchor, and people would notice. Your colleagues would start turning to you for guidance. Leaders would see you as reliable, grounded, clear thinking. You become the emotional center of gravity, the one people trust, especially when things get hard. But here's where many get it wrong. They hear emotional detachment and assume it means being cold, distant, or uncaring. Nothing could be further from the truth. True emotional detachment amplifies empathy, because when you're not overwhelmed by your own emotional reactivity, you can be fully present with others. You can listen without defensiveness. You can care deeply without being consumed. You become the steady hand in someone else's storm, the grounded friend, the calming voice. You're still warm, still compassionate, but you don't get pulled into the drama. And the benefits go beyond how others perceive you. They transform your inner world too. Picture your mind as a garden. If left unattended, negativity grows fast like weeds. Fear, anger, anxiety, they take over quickly if you're not mindful. But if you tend that garden with intention, if you remove those emotional weeds and plant seeds of gratitude, clarity, and calm, you create a space where peace thrives, where your best thinking happens, where creativity, insight, and resilience grow. So how do you tend your inner garden? Each day, train yourself to recognize emotional weeds, a thought rooted in fear, a reaction born from frustration. Don't judge it. Acknowledge it, then gently let it go. Don't water it with your attention. Instead, redirect your focus to something empowering. Gratitude, problem solving, acceptance. With time, this becomes your default mode. Negativity loses its grip. Emotional strength becomes your new normal. Let's look at a real-life example. Imagine you're hit with unexpected financial stress. Bills pile up. The future feels uncertain. Most people panic. Anxiety spirals. They become paralyzed by what-ifs. But the emotionally detached person. We ended with financial stress and how emotional detachment lets you respond, not react. Now let's continue. Instead of spiraling into panic, the emotionally detached person stays grounded. They breathe. They assess. They calmly begin planning their next steps. They still feel stress, but it never consumes them. They channel that energy into clarity. They look for solutions. They explore opportunities. And they take back control, one calm step at a time. But this power of emotional detachment doesn't stop at challenges like money or work. It's just as transformative in relationships. Think about it. How many arguments happen simply because emotions rise too fast before logic ever gets a chance? Imagine your partner or friend says something hurtful. Your gut reaction might be anger, defensiveness. But what if you didn't react? What if instead, you paused and asked yourself, why are they saying this? What's really going on beneath these words? That single moment of detached curiosity changes everything. You go from reacting to responding. You create space. You shift the energy of the conversation. And suddenly, instead of escalating into conflict, it turns into connection. That's the power of calm presence. It builds trust. It deepens communication. And over time, it makes your relationship stronger, richer, and more meaningful. But to master this, there's something else you have to confront: your ego. Because most emotional overreactions, anger, jealousy, resentment don't come from truth. They come from ego. The ego feels threatened and lashes out to protect itself. But here's the honest question. Does defending your ego ever make your life better? Does it improve your relationships, your clarity, your peace? Rarely. In most cases, it adds fuel to the fire. Emotional detachment invites you to take a step back, to zoom out, to see the moment without ego, to see criticism as just words, not an attack, to see rejection not as personal failure but as misalignment, to see failure not as shame but as information. This shift frees you. It opens the door to growth. It clears the path for deeper relationships and a peaceful inner world. And here's a powerful way to reinforce that inner peace: gratitude. Gratitude transforms your focus. It moves your attention from what's missing to what's already good. Even in difficult seasons, you start noticing a kind word, a roof over your head, the lesson inside the hardship. Daily gratitude rewires your mind for resilience. It reminds you that your peace doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. It lives inside you. Think about someone who practices gratitude consistently. Even when things go wrong, they find something to appreciate. A supportive friend, a lesson learned, a chance to begin again. This mindset doesn't just reduce emotional chaos. It creates emotional strength. It softens stress and turns problems into perspective. And one more benefit of emotional detachment that's often overlooked: boundaries. When you're not emotionally reactive, you don't let others pull you into their storm. You can see clearly when your boundaries are being crossed, and instead of exploding or withdrawing, you communicate those boundaries calmly, confidently, and without guilt. Once you begin enforcing boundaries with calm clarity, something powerful happens. People start to respect them, not because you threaten or argue, not because you raise your voice, but because you hold your ground without drama, without negativity. This quiet authority transforms your relationships, both personal and professional. People instinctively respond to those who lead with calm confidence. And here's something you might not expect. Emotional detachment doesn't just elevate your peace. It skyrockets your productivity and creativity as well. Think about how much mental energy is wasted every day on tiny frustrations, on unnecessary arguments, on emotional spirals that lead nowhere. Now imagine all that energy redirected. With emotional detachment, your mind becomes clearer, focused, efficient. Tasks that once felt overwhelming, now they feel manageable, even enjoyable, because your inner environment is calm and uncluttered. You gain mental bandwidth, and with it, your thinking becomes sharper. Your problem solving improves. Your creativity flows without being blocked by noise or doubt. To keep reinforcing this clarity, create routines that anchor your mind. Daily habits that stabilize your emotional baseline. Regular exercise, mindfulness or meditation. And creative hobbies that require deep attention. Writing, painting, playing music. These aren't just activities, they're tools. They train your nervous system to remain balanced. They teach your mind to focus, stay present, and return to calm even under stress. And over time, they become your secret weapons, keeping your inner world grounded, no matter what happens around you. Ultimately, emotional detachment is far more than a technique. It's a philosophy, a way of life. It teaches you to choose acceptance over resistance, calm over chaos, empowerment over victimhood. It shifts the way you see the world. You no longer feel like life is something happening to you. You see it as something you're actively shaping. Every reaction, every response, every choice. Each day becomes a chance to practice clarity, stillness, and strength. Gradually, this shapes your character, and the people around you begin to feel it. Friends, family, colleagues, they notice the shift. They trust you more. They lean on you. They admire the way you carry yourself. And it's not because you've changed your appearance or your status. It's because you've mastered something far more powerful: yourself. You've become dependable, grounded, someone others quietly look up to. So ask yourself, what legacy do you want to leave behind? One of emotional reactivity and constant turbulence? Or one of calm strength, quiet wisdom, and emotional intelligence? Because every single moment gives you that choice. To embody emotional detachment, to respond instead of react, To be the steady presence in an unsteady world. And those choices, they don't just define your peace. They define your life. So today, right now, make that commitment. To become the kind of person whose resilience is uncheckable, whose calmness is contagious, whose clarity is unwavering. Because when you master your emotions, you master your reality. Challenges become lessons. Setbacks become setups for success. Criticism becomes fuel for growth. And above all, you become someone no storm can move. To keep strengthening your Stoic mindset, click the video on your screen right now. Thank you for being part of Stoic Journal Path.